Hello to you all, and I hope you're doing great. This will be the first tutorial with a commentary, and since I'm not a native English speaker, I hope you guys still understand what I'm saying. Uh, I have read a lot of questions in my YouTube comments regarding how to do the vanishing cars in most of my scenes, and I'm gonna do a short tutorial on how to make the effect. Okay, so you can see that I have my screencast in here, so you can check what I'm click on my keyboard and my mouse. We're going to start with, let's make a new simple car models using this cube. I'm gonna use this cube, default cube, and start by going to edit mode, select the face mode, and then move it slightly forward, and we're gonna use a loop cut, and we're going to divide it by 2 and another in here, and one more loop cut in here. Once again, press select the face mode and select the top face. Okay, this will be our car model. I use the control and click select to pick the shortest path, and then we can move it upward to make the car, and we can move it a little forward. This one we can select the edge and move it backward, and for this one move it forward, and select the forward for the hood. We're gonna make this super simple, and let's get out of edit mode and go to object mode, add a mesh, and we're gonna select a cylinder. I'm gonna change it to maybe 24 and rotate it on y-axis by pressing the R, Y 90 degrees, RY 90. And once again, we're gonna go to edit mode by pressing tab, select the face mode, and we're gonna move it. So we're gonna make a wheel from this cylinder. Okay, and now we will move it only on X and Y axis by pressing G and then Shift Z. So we can see that it only moves on X and Y axis. You can see the highlighted lines, coordinate lines, only the pink and green one. So we can see that it only moves on both X and Y axis. And we can move it a little bit upward. Press this to X viewport and move this here. Scale it down a little bit, and we're gonna move it towards the car. It's gonna, maybe it's gonna be too big. Okay, like this one, and we're gonna duplicate it using Shift D and move it on the y-axis and move it forward. Select both of the object by pressing Shift and click. And we're gonna move it a little bit inward. Now we're gonna duplicate this once again for the wheel. So we're gonna select both of them using Shift and click, and then another Shift D, and then move it slightly X. We're gonna keep it this both of this object for now, and we're gonna select this car and we're gonna use a modifier Boolean. Oh, before we select the object, we're gonna join this together, Control J, so it becomes one object. Now that we have our joint cylinders, we're gonna apply this Boolean. Oh, oh, sorry. But before we apply this Boolean, instead of doing both sides, doing the Boolean on for both sides, I'm gonna do this one. Select the car and then go to we're gonna use loop cut and we're gonna divide this car. Okay, and then select the face mode and then we're gonna press Alt and select the edge. It's a loop selection method, and for example, if you want to select all of these faces in here, we can also use the same method. So press Alt and then select the edge. You can see that it's looping around the selection, but for this one we're gonna use this. We want to remove the other side of this car, so we're gonna use loop select the LED faces, and then we're gonna use the quick shutter speed selection using select these faces and then press Control and select this one. Now we can delete this one. Okay, we can get out of the edit mode. Now that we have only half of the car, we're gonna apply mirror modifier to duplicate it. And now we have the Boolean and mirror modifier. We're gonna select this joint cylinders for our Boolean object, and we can see that there is some changes in our, and we can see that the Boolean applied on both sides because we have the mirror modifier applied to this object. And all we have to do is apply this Boolean, and we can also apply this. We can leave it as it is, but I like to apply this, so it create. And now we can delete this object, and now back on the X we can scale it down a little bit. We're gonna delete this one and just duplicate this using we're gonna move this here. Okay, and duplicate by pressing Shift D and press Y and move it towards the front wheel. And we can duplicate this one, press Shift D, and then we can move it to this side. Okay, now we have our car ready. Let's just use this simple model for this tutorial so it doesn't take too long. We're gonna add the road, and we're gonna move it towards the wheel, or we can move this all and then move it downwards towards, and we can select the plane, go to edit mode, and we're gonna make the road for the car. And let's say, for example, we want this car to vanish at the end of the road. So we're gonna add to do that, we're gonna add a cube. Go to C viewport, and we're gonna move it in towards the end of the road, and we're gonna scale it up. You can just put it in here at the end, and we're gonna move it upward, something like this. Now, to make the car vanish, we're gonna use the same Boolean modifier, but this time the Boolean is this object in here, this cube, this big cube in here. But if we apply this and we move it forward, we can't see correct. If we press, let's say for example like this one, we're gonna go to the camera view, camera view by numpad 0. Okay, let's try to render it. Press the view and then camera to control to move our camera so it's viewing the whole scene. Okay, let's just turn off the camera to view, so we can move back to our viewport view. If we try to render by pressing F12, we can see that the cube is still visible in our rendering, and we're gonna make it invisible for the rendering. To make it easier, we can set in the object properties, we will go to the viewport display, and we can select it as wire. Now, as you can see, it makes us easier to check the effect on the viewport, but this does not affect the rendering. If we press the F12, we can see that it's still rendered in the final result, and we can make the cube invisible in the final result by pressing the cube and then click this icon, disable in renders. Now when you press render, you can see that the effect is working. We can see that the cars is vanishing when it hit the cube, the invisible cube we put in here. Now let's put the car back here. Okay, now let's start animating it. Let's select all of the wheels, shift and left click on both wheels, and lastly select the car object and press Ctrl P, set parent to object. Remember to select the car as the last selection and it highlighted with a lighter orange. It means that the object, the four wheels, now it's parented to the car object. If we move the car, we can see that the wheel also follows. Now, remember that we already applied this boolean, so when it hit the cube, it will vanishing, but not the wheel parts, which means we will also need to apply the same boolean modifiers to the wheels. We can do that by selecting one of the wheels and then apply boolean using the same method as before. Select this one and we're gonna try to move the car forward and see if the effect apply to the wheels. Okay, we can see that the wheels also vanish, but only one wheels is vanishing. And we're gonna apply the same boolean modifier to the rest of the wheels. We can save time by copying the modifier applied to this wheel by selecting the three wheels, shift select, and then press the last wheel with Boolean modifier and press Ctrl L. We can see here copy modifiers. What this command do is we can see that now on for all four wheels it's applied the same modifier as this one. Now we can see that if we move the car towards the cube, it will be vanished. Let's try to animate this quickly. Let's click the car object and then insert keyframe location, and let's say for 80 frames. We're gonna move it towards the cube and we're gonna, oops, sorry, on the frame 80, we're gonna move it towards the cube and insert keyframe location. Let's change the end frame to 80 and there you have it, the vanishing cars when it moved towards the cube object. I think that's it for now, and I know there is a lot of mistake or something that you might not understand from what I tells you about in this video. Feel free to reach me in a comment below and just let me know if you have any question about this method. Oh, and one thing that you need to know, that this method works for low to medium objects, and you can also apply this method to the higher to the high poly object, but usually it causes a glitch and it can burden your desktop or laptop because of this method requires a lot of memory, I think. So when you use this method to the high poly object, usually it will calculate the Boolean much longer than a low or medium poly object. Okay, that's it for now for this tutorial. I hope you find this useful, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much.